Evelyn had always been drawn to the overgrown patch of land behind the house, a hidden corner that her parents had once called their garden, though it was now more of a wild, untamed space. No one really tended to it anymore. But Evelyn loved it there. It was her escape, her sanctuary. She'd often slip away after school to sit beneath the large oak tree, its branches twisting like arms reaching for the sky. She would close her eyes and let the breeze caress her face, imagining a world far away from the suffocating closeness of home. One afternoon, while sitting in her quiet haven, Evelyn watched as her father stumbled across the yard. His face flushed, his eyes dull. He had returned early from work, something that only happened on rare occasions. His hands trembled slightly as he leaned against the fence. She could hear the faint sound of her mother crying from inside, muffled but unmistakable. Evelyn knew better than to interrupt them when things were like this. She had learned long ago that their arguments were not her concern. They were an adult thing, one that she wasn't supposed to understand. But in her heart, the sight of her father like this made her feel like she was somehow responsible for it all. She had never seen him this broken. She buried her face in her knees, trying to block out the sounds of her father's unsteady movements as he slowly wandered back inside. Evelyn's 6th birthday was supposed to be a special day. She had been looking forward to it for weeks. The cake, the balloons, the small party with just close family and friends. It was simple, but it was hers. But as the day arrived, the atmosphere in the house shifted. Her mother, usually so full of warmth and excitement, seemed distant, her eyes red-rimmed from a sleepless night. Her father, on the other hand, was overly cheerful, too cheerful, as if to compensate for the tension in the air. The party started, but it was nothing like Evelyn had imagined. As she blew out the candles on her cake, her father's laugh echoed too loudly, almost unnervingly, and she could feel the discomfort rising in the room. At one point, her father, after several too many drinks, began to tell stories that made the guests laugh awkwardly. Evelyn's mother remained quiet, her smile tight and forced. Evelyn's small hands gripped her gift tightly, a simple doll her mother had picked out for her, but the joy she should have felt was gone, replaced by a dull, sinking feeling. The moment Evelyn opened her gift, her father clapped his hands too loudly, as though to drown out the growing silence. She glanced at her mother, who was standing at the edge of the room, her arms crossed tightly across her chest, as though protecting herself from something Evelyn couldn't yet name. Evelyn, with her childlike innocence, smiled and thanked her father, but deep down, she already understood that this was not the birthday she had imagined. Evelyn's father had once promised her a trip to the beach, a promise he had made when she was younger, before the strain of life had started to eat away at their joy. She had always believed that one day they would pack the car, drive down the dusty roads, and spend the day on the shore, watching the waves roll in. It became her beacon of hope, a dream to hold on to when the arguments between her parents grew more frequent and her father's moods became unpredictable. One Saturday, when Evelyn was around 8, her father woke her up early with an excited grin, his eyes sparkling with the same enthusiasm he once had when he made promises of the beach trip. She jumped out of bed, eyes wide with excitement. But as they were about to leave, her mother stopped them at the door. Her face was pale, her voice low and steady, the kind of tone she used when she was hiding something.
"Where are you going?"
she asked, a hint of something sharp in her voice.
"Just a quick trip,"
her father answered, his smile quickly faltering. Evelyn stood there, confused, not understanding why her mother was suddenly upset. But she had learned long ago to remain silent in moments like these. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. Her father's eyes darted nervously between her mother and her, and then he sighed, muttering something under his breath. He told Evelyn he would make it up to her next week, but the next week never came. Every time she brought it up, he had some excuse. Something came up, he was too tired, he didn't have the money. In the years that followed, Evelyn would often catch him staring out of the window, his face full of regret, but never saying a word about the broken promises. That beach trip would become a symbol of the shattered hopes Evelyn would learn to carry. By the time Evelyn was 10, the cracks in her family's foundation had widened, and they were no longer subtle. She overheard fragments of conversations between her parents, their voices low but full of bitterness.
"You're always drinking,"
her mother would say.
"You're not the man I married anymore."
Evelyn would curl up in bed, clutching her stuffed bunny tightly, trying to shut out the sounds of her father's angry responses, the sharpness in his voice that cut through the walls. One night, when she was tucked in bed, she heard a loud crash from the living room. Her heart raced, and she hurriedly climbed out of bed, peeking through the crack in her bedroom door. Her father was standing in the middle of the room, his face flushed with anger. A shattered picture frame lay on the floor at his feet. Evelyn's mother was crying, her face hidden behind her hands, trying to shield herself from the storm brewing before her. Evelyn stood frozen, her pulse racing, and for the first time, she wondered if their family would ever be whole again. Her father's eyes flicked to her for a brief moment, and the look in his gaze, tired, regretful, haunted her for years. That night, as she lay in bed, her mind buzzing with confusion, she understood something that would shape her entire life. Things weren't as simple as love and laughter. Sometimes even the most cherished things could fall apart. She began to feel the weight of the world pressing down on her small shoulders, a weight that she would carry silently for years. Evelyn had always been the quiet, introspective type, someone who observed the world rather than took part in it. That changed when she met Adam. He wasn't like the other boys in her class. He had an air of mystery around him, something that made him seem older, more experienced. He didn't follow the usual schoolyard rules or make small talk. Adam was charismatic in a way that pulled people towards him, yet kept them at a distance. Evelyn found herself drawn to him in a way she couldn't explain. One afternoon after school, Adam caught her sitting alone under the same oak tree she used to hide beneath as a child. He approached her, not with the typical teasing or casual banter, but with an earnestness that caught her off guard.
"You're different, aren't you?"
he asked, his voice soft and probing. She didn't know what to say at first, so she just nodded, unsure of how to react. He smiled, and something inside Evelyn stirred. That smile, the way he made her feel like she was someone important, was enough to make her forget the loneliness that had plagued her for years. From that moment on, Adam became her escape. He started walking her home after school, a small gesture that felt significant in ways she couldn't fully understand. Each time they spoke, Evelyn felt like she was shedding the weight of her world, and for the first time, she experienced the warmth of someone's attention. Adam's presence made her feel seen, something she hadn't felt in a long time. But as she grew closer to him, Evelyn began to notice subtle things that unsettled her. The way Adam would disappear for days without explanation, the way he spoke about relationships as if they were fleeting, disposable. These small cracks in his image were easy to overlook, though, especially when he looked at her with those soft, meaningful eyes. She believed that their connection was special, unique. The purity of her emotions blinded her to the warning signs that Adam wasn't interested in anything serious. One night, during a school dance, Evelyn felt like she was walking in a dream. The dim lights, the gentle hum of music, and the warm bodies pressed close together created an atmosphere that made everything feel unreal, as though she had been transported into a world where nothing could hurt her. Adam had asked her to dance. The moment he took her hand and led her to the center of the floor, she felt her heart race with excitement. This was it, the moment she had longed for. For the first time, she was the center of attention, not because of her grades or her shyness, but because of the boy who made her feel seen. Adam was everything she had imagined, charming, confident, and in control. He moved effortlessly, guiding her through the dance as if they were the only two people in the room. In that moment, she felt pure joy, an overwhelming sense of belonging. Her world seemed to fit together perfectly, the pieces all falling into place. But as the song came to an end, Adam leaned in closer, whispering something in her ear that made her stomach churn.
"We could leave now, you know. Just the two of us. Forget about everything else."
His words were soft, coaxing, but Evelyn, unsure of what to do, hesitated. She hadn't realized until that moment how much she had come to rely on the security Adam gave her, how much she craved his approval. She wanted to trust him completely, to believe that they could escape their respective realities and live in the purity of their own little world. But something held her back. A small, uneasy feeling rose within her, a voice in her head telling her this wasn't how things were supposed to go. She pushed the thought away, choosing to follow him into the unknown. As she followed Adam out of the gym, she couldn't shake the nagging doubt that something was off, but it was too late to turn back now. A few weeks after the dance, Evelyn found herself once again alone, but this time the loneliness felt different. It was as if the world had changed around her, leaving her behind in its wake. Adam had stopped calling as frequently. When he did, his voice was distant, distracted. His promises about the future, about how they were meant to be, began to feel empty. One afternoon she called him to ask if they could hang out, but he didn't pick up. She left a message but no reply came. The silence between them grew, and Evelyn couldn't understand why. She replayed every moment they had shared, every word, every touch. Had she done something wrong? Had she misunderstood his intentions? Her mind spiraled with doubt. When Adam finally called her a week later, his voice sounded forced, as if he was just going through the motions. "Hey Evelyn, sorry I've been busy. You know how things are. I'll make it up to you soon." But Evelyn could feel the distance in his words. She could sense the lack of sincerity in his voice. And when they met up, the once intimate conversations felt awkward, strained. Adam no longer seemed like the boy who had shared his dreams with her, the one who had made her believe in something bigger than herself. She had fallen for the illusion he had created, the purity of the connection they had, but it was all starting to crumble. She had believed in him, in them, but the cracks in their relationship were widening. It wasn't until the night she saw Adam with someone else that the truth hit her. She had followed him, unaware of what she was looking for. She had wanted answers, wanting to make sense of the coldness that had overtaken him. That's when she saw them. Adam and another girl, laughing together, sitting close, sharing a moment of genuine affection. Evelyn felt like a spectator in her own life, watching the person she had trusted so completely slip through her fingers. Her heart sank, her chest tightening with an ache she couldn't articulate. It wasn't just the betrayal she felt. It was the realization that she had given so much of herself to a boy who had never truly cared. She wanted to scream, to run to him and demand answers, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she turned away, her feet heavy with the weight of everything she had lost. In that moment, Evelyn understood the harsh truth. Purity could be easily manipulated, and love was a fragile thing. She was no longer the naive girl who believed that everything would work out in the end. The world was far more complicated, and Adam had shown her that. She walked away in silence, tears blurring her vision. She had taught her first painful lesson about love and loss, one that would follow her for years to come. Evelyn had always imagined that when the time came when she and Adam would be together forever, they would have a life full of hope, a fresh start. Just the two of them, away from the weight of her family's brokenness. She could almost see it clearly. A little apartment, the smell of coffee in the morning, the sound of Adam's laughter filling the space between them. The future seemed so simple, so full of promise. But everything changed when Evelyn discovered she was pregnant. She had always been careful, at least she thought she had been. The news hit her like a freight train, knocking the breath out of her and forcing her to face a reality she had never prepared for. It wasn't a joyful surprise, but rather a terrifying one. She could no longer hide behind the comfort of her daydreams or the illusion of a perfect love. At first she thought that Adam would step up, that he would do the right thing. He had always promised her that he would never leave her, that he would always be there. But when she sat him down, her hands shaking, eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope, Adam's reaction wasn't what she had imagined. His face paled, and he stepped back slightly, as though the ground beneath him had shifted. He ran a hand through his hair, avoiding her gaze.
I don't know if I'm ready for this. You don't know what this will mean for me, for us. I didn't expect this, Evelyn. I thought we were just having fun.
Evelyn felt the ground drop from under her. The purity of the love she thought they shared, the plans she had built around them, crumbled instantly. The words stung more than she could have ever prepared for. She didn't know what to say. What could she say? The future she had imagined in her mind disintegrated in front of her, and all she was left with was a cold, unspoken reality. She had believed that Adam would be there for her, but his words made her feel more alone than ever before. The weeks following the revelation were torturous. Adam's distance became even more pronounced. He stopped calling her as often. The sweet, reassuring messages they had exchanged, full of promises and tenderness, were replaced with cold, dismissive texts. When they did speak, it felt as though they were strangers. Evelyn would ask him how he was feeling, and he would answer with one-word responses.
Fine. Busy. I'll call you later.
Evelyn tried to push through, convincing herself that it was just a phase, that Adam was simply scared, and that he would come around. But each passing day made her feel more like a burden to him, an obstacle standing between him and the life he had once dreamed of. She stopped going to school as frequently, withdrawing into herself as the weight of her pregnancy grew heavier. The loneliness became unbearable, and her thoughts twisted with self-doubt. In the quiet of the evening, when she was alone with her thoughts, Evelyn would replay Adam's words over and over in her head.
I didn't expect this, Evelyn.
She began to wonder if she had made a mistake, if she had imagined the love they shared, if she had somehow pushed him into this situation. But deep down she knew she hadn't. Adam's withdrawal was a decision he had made, not hers. But that knowledge didn't ease the pain. It only made it sharper. The day Evelyn found out that Adam had moved on with someone else was the day that broke her. She had been reaching out to him, trying to get him to come back, to fix things between them. But when she went to his house one afternoon to confront him, she saw something she could never unsee. Adam was sitting on the porch, laughing with a girl Evelyn didn't recognize. They were sitting close, their hands brushing casually, their faces glowing with a comfort Evelyn had once thought was reserved for her. The sight hit her like a punch to the gut. She froze in place, hidden behind a corner of the house, watching as Adam leaned in to kiss the girl. Her heart shattered in that moment. She couldn't breathe. She had never been so humiliated, so devastated. All the time she had spent convincing herself that Adam would eventually come around, that he would realize his mistakes. Now it all seemed so naive. In that moment, the purity of the love she had once felt for him vanished. It wasn't just the betrayal of him being with someone else. It was the realization that her love had been taken for granted, that she had been nothing more than a temporary chapter in his life. Tears burned in her eyes as she turned away, retreating into the shadows. She wanted to scream, to run to him and demand an explanation, but she knew it would never come. The Adam she had once known was gone, replaced by someone who no longer cared. The purity she had once held in her heart was gone, replaced by the bitter taste of betrayal. A week after she had witnessed Adam with the other girl, Evelyn found herself standing at the edge of a precipice. Her emotions a whirlwind of anger, sadness, and disbelief. She had spent days avoiding him, hiding in the corners of her life, too ashamed to face the reality of what had happened. But the time had come. She needed closure. She needed to know the truth from him.